Welcome to another episode of Personal Brand Blueprint Podcast. I'm Dave Polykoff of zenpost.com. I help you with your personal brand to launch, attract, and convert your personal brand online. Again, check out zenpost.com to learn more about how to launch, grow, and monetize your personal brand today. On today's episode, we have Vanessa Wilde, Launch Copywriter at Vanessa Wilde CO. She helps coaches and course creators take their incredible spoken words and turn them into copy that increases sales. Today, we're chatting with Vanessa about how we can use copywriting to grow and monetize our personal brands. So, Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So, I want to start with understanding a little bit more about you, your background, and your business. So, why don't we start with the dreaded question that I ask every guest at the top of the call is, what do you do?
Yeah. So I am a launch copywriter, and I take exactly what you said. I take that incredible spoken word that a lot of people have and convert it into sales copy so that they can convert around the clock instead of just when they're actually speaking. So I do this through like emails, sales pages, landing pages, and sometimes we sprinkle in some content marketing as well.
Wonderful. And who would be like an ideal person that would need this type of service?
Yeah. So anyone that is putting an offer out there, which honestly, if you are building any type of brand, building your personal brand, you should be putting some type of offer. So it could be a one-on-one offer. It could be a mastermind, a group coaching. It could even be just an offer where they do it themselves and they go through the course themselves.
So, copywriting, a lot of times when people hear the word copyright, they think of like the legal concept of copywriting, right? So, how would you define copywriting and how that's different than maybe just like normal everyday writing on like an email or like a social post or something?
Yeah. So copywriting is ultimately using the written word and using it to convert people to your desired outcome. Typically it is sales, but sometimes you could think of like a landing page where that first step isn't a sale, but you ultimately are getting them to convert into going on your email list. So it's the conversion part versus the entertainment part.
And copywriting is one of those things I feel like you kind of just need to have mastered the craft over time, right? So what's kind of your origin story of how you got into copywriting?
Yeah. So I honestly didn't even know what copywriting was. Over 10 years ago, got pregnant and was like, I do not want to go back to work. I was a school teacher at that time and I wanted to be able to stay home. So I learned about the digital marketing space, got into social selling at that time, and then slowly evolved into learning more about marketing, creating your own business. And because I had such an intensive like understanding of social media and marketing and all of that, it was a natural transition to go into copywriting because I understood that buyer's journey and what they needed to hear in order to convert.
Where are we in the state of copywriting today? Because, I come from a little bit of a direct response background. And I remember like 12 years ago, the kind of tactics people would use when copywriting. Is there kind of a sentiment that we have towards kind of old school copywriting versus maybe what's working today? Like what's kind of the state of the union on copywriting tactics?
Yeah, so there's a few things going on. We used to use a lot of that scarcity as far as fake scarcity, and it worked. Like it was working then, it was okay. And now people can read through it. We have an increase of buyer hesitancy and a decrease of trust these days. And so they can read between the lines of, is this person actually legit with their urgency, with their scarcity, or are they just trying to fool me? So there's that side of it of you need to make sure that when you are presenting scarcity, and it doesn't even have to be like I have a certain number of spots left or a certain time. It could just be scarcity of, hey, if you don't take action right now, this is what your life will be like in the next couple of months. But if you do, here's the difference. So pushing them to take action based on that. But the other side also is that with copyright now, because there's such a decrease of trust, you really need to bring your authority out more. So we could kind of get by with the odd testimonial, just sharing our story, but we really have to bring in our authority in different ways. And that means more touch points before you actually do the selling and bringing that to light in different areas. One other thing is sales pages used to be forever long. There used to be this like taking them through everything and adding everything to your sales page. And while I don't believe that just a short sales page, I've seen people post where they're like, what do you want in a sales page? And obviously your audience is just going to say, tell me the price of what you get, like what I get with it. They're going to say that. There is an actual buyer's journey that you have to take them through, but it doesn't have to go forever. Like it doesn't have to be a forever long page because people are going to be scrolling and getting what they need from the page. And if they're overwhelmed, they're just going to jump off of it anyways.
So I know a lot of people, I mean, I'm in the content creation space myself, and a lot of times when I talk to potential clients or clients, they always bring up, well, can't AI do this for me? Can't I just use the ChatGPT? So what's been your experience with AI and copywriting, and what's kind of your maybe response to why a human is still necessary in copywriting?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I use ChatGPT all the time. And I think that's important because it's a tool that can help increase speed of what you're putting out there. And it could go deeper. But the problem is most people don't know on how to utilize ChatGPT in the proper way to get what they need. And one of the things that's really important is that you're feeding it exactly what you need. That means your brand voice. So you've got to understand that. That means really understanding who you're speaking to, their problems, their struggles, their desires. You've got to tell ChatGPT or help talk to it almost like a human, pretend it's like your coach and talk through and unravel and really figure that out before you even have it right. The other side of it is you have to know the frameworks. So ChatGPT doesn't understand the frameworks that actually convert. So if I were to sit down and just say, write me a sales page, it's going to just throw out something that isn't very good. There may be some good sentences, but it doesn't know how to take them through it. So even if you go in there, you have everything included of who your customer is, what you do, you have your framework. At the end, there's still that personal touch that has to go in there because it still sounds like a robot. So you're still going to have that outcome. There'll be some really good pieces in there, but you have to still go and edit and update and have that human touch involved with it so that you have a piece that actually connects. And we are looking for that even more than ever right now.
Sounds like that's a kind of a key word there is connects. With copywriting, obviously the goal there is persuasion. What elements should us as personal branders know about our audience in order to help us and help you, if we're working with you, be able to make the best copywriting content?
Yeah, so really understanding their psychographics. So what a lot of people tend to sit on are their demographics. So they're like, it's a female, her name is Noelle, and that type of old school type feel. And really, like, you can do that if you think that's fun. But really, what we need is what are their struggles? What are their desires? What are they saying to their spouse or their best friend that they're not telling anyone else? What do they wish was different than what's currently happening to them? If they had a magic wand, what would that magic wand do for them? So getting more in that deeper end of what they're thinking about, what they're going through, what they're processing versus how old they are. That helps with ads or like graphics for your images. But it's not going to be what really gets deep with them so that they're like, ooh, yes, this is for me. You're speaking to me. And this is what I need to do next so that I can get that desired outcome.
Sure. And for those who maybe want to take their copywriting game from like at least 0 to 1, what are some like common mistakes that people are attempting to do with their language that are resulting in no one caring, that maybe they can tweak overnight to just make their copywriting skills a little bit better, to maybe start seeing some success overnight with their copywriting skills?
Yeah, that's such a great question. There's the one thing that I will say, like, that will help you immediately is to go deeper with what you're saying. So instead of saying you want to have more flexibility, That's such a common word that we hear these days, which is what ChatGPT also spits out. So it's all just going to blend together. So think about, what is your person, what does flexibility look like for your person? And actually write that out. So if that is, they want to be able to jump on a plane and go to Europe anytime they want, then actually write that out. It's interesting because we think once we get that specific that we're actually alienating people, and that there's a group that won't want to come to us. But what happens is when you're able to get that specific, the other people that may not want to go to Europe or jump on a plane anytime, or they're a mom like me where it's like, I just want the flexibility to go on field trips, they're able to put that into that spot and be able to replace that with what their desire is. Because you were so specific, it's a lot easier versus just saying flexibility.
For someone who wanted to work with someone like you, what does that look like in terms of, let's say, we're a coach, a coach who's trying to grow their personal brand, and maybe they have a newsletter, maybe kind of a website, a personal website they like had their nephew throw together or something, right? But they don't really know what the assets are and then how to like really incorporate copywriting into it. Someone comes to you, what is that experience like? Like, what are you walking them through to help them get to where they need to be?
Yeah. So the very first thing that I would suggest even before coming to me is, one, making sure you have a solid offer. Whatever that offer is going to be, you need to know that it's an offer that they want, your audience wants, that it's an offer that is going to sell. So that could be just a human to human touch at the beginning. But there's no point of going and building all these assets out without knowing if it's going to sell or not. To me, I'm like, you're throwing away money. And I don't want you to throw money at something that you're just going to throw away on the other end. So making sure that it's an offer that's actually going to convert on the other end. Next, you want to make sure that you're really clear on your person. So what that would look like is having a messaging guide. So have that clear who the person is that this is for, and then break down like how this actual offer is going to help them get those results. So what does that look like? What pieces are going to be included, and how will that associate to the outcome, the big umbrella outcome that they're wanting? So having a messaging guide in place is very, very helpful. The other thing is being very sure in your voice. What do you want your voice to sound like in your copy? So a lot of my people, like I mentioned, they're amazing at speaking, and then they go to write and they water down their copy and it's not very good. So that could even be, I've had my people send me their sales calls or speaking things that they've done, and they're like, this is the voice I'm trying to get onto the paper, but I just need to know what you're looking for, because it's hard for me to kind of guess what type of voice you want to bring out in copy. It could also look like I've had people send me, hey, I really like this person's voice, like an Amy Porterfield or a Jenna Kutcher or whoever. I like this type of voice, and send that to me so I at least have an idea. So those would be like the starting spots to really nail down before you run and hire a copywriter.
I know a lot of clients I've worked with like to be able to put out kind of top of funnel content where it's just them kind of speaking. They're not really pitching anything. They're not really talking about their offer. And it's sometimes because they're a little bit weary of wanting to come off salesy and like, push an offer in someone's face. What's the tactic or blend? Because you mentioned like, hey, I want to have a voice like Amy Porterfield, who has like a very good blend of like her personality, but also salesy.
Yeah.
How do you take that approach where you can still use copywriting tactics to persuade, but you're not coming off salesy?
Yeah. And to me, that comes back to what I've noticed is, what are your thoughts around sales? So many of us have had bad experiences from sales, whether it's going to a car dealership and you barely park and they're running out to you and wanting to sell, to walking down the mall and someone's trying to like start straightening your hair already. Like, we've had such bad experiences with sales that we tiptoe. So majority of people, they don't sell too hard. And so you usually, if you're listening to this, you probably are not going to feel too salesy to your audience because you're already a little bit shy of that. Um, the key too is one, to have that like service mindset. When you sell, you're serving because you're able to get these keys into someone's hand to help them. And we know that when they put money behind what they're going after, it helps them commit more versus just getting a free thing. A lot of your people, when they get that free download, they're not going to do anything with it. They're just going to see it. And that's because it's free. But if they invest in your program, that investment is actually going to get them to take action to get them better results. So that's the first part of it, is just your mindset. The other part of it is making sure you have a nice balance of sales copy and that connection, conviction. Thought leader content is so big right now. Sharing your views on things, getting that polarizing content that you've been a little shy to share, put that out there more. And some educational as well. You could still do that. It's not as powerful as it once was, but it's still doing well out there. So mix it up. Every post doesn't have to be sales. Gary Vee, who's like the big guru from back in the day, and he's still there, but he was really, really big with his punch, jab type mentality. So really getting that nurture content out there and then sell, nurture and then sell, so that you have a nice balance.
You mentioned polarizing statements. Let's kind of put you in the hot seat here and say, what would be one hot take you have in the industry that maybe everyone's saying do X, but really you believe Y?
Yeah. So a lot of people are saying, do not like really get into like their struggles. Don't really punch into that. They already feel bad enough. Pull away from it. Just speak to their desires and they'll take action. And I am so against that. I am not for like putting someone down even further than what they already are. But we don't we don't move from a spot of sitting just because of our desires. We get out of our seats because of discomfort. And so we need them to feel that discomfort enough that they're actually going to move forward versus just sitting there in their seat, staying in what they feel right now is comfortable.
What are some tactics then? Like, what type of language can we use to, one, help paint the picture of that desire? Like, what are the kind of flowery wording that we can kind of work into our content? And then on the flip side of that, what's a way to use strong language in order to really paint the picture of like the negative outcome that we can come? What is there better language that we can incorporate into our content to help paint those pictures?
Yeah, so ultimately it comes down to like being, like I talked about earlier, tangible. What does that actually look like for them? Speak it out so that they can actually see what that outcome can look like for them. So instead of pulling back and trying to cover everyone, actually say like start, like I'm thinking of some examples instead of just saying like get out of your 9 to 5, say, be able to go to your kids' field trips and their special lunches any day that you want. And so then they're actually starting to feel what that could look like and envision that. When we comes down to like the more of the struggles that they're experiencing, just calling that out. You're working when the kids go down to bed and your spouse is trying to get you off the computer, but you still have more on your to-do list. Like, actually say that out loud to them, because that's going to be the gut punch because you're actually saying it. Instead of holding back, actually go out there and say what you're telling your coach or your friend of what you're like seeing within your industry of what your people are doing. Actually say that instead of holding back.
And where can we apply copywriting? Like, where does that make sense? Because I think people can get an idea of like a sales landing page. Like, that's where we think copywriting. But are there other areas that we can apply copywriting in our business?
Yeah. So it can go from obviously the sales page, your emails. So even when you nurture, you still want to think about sales, or when you're launching a new offer or a new round with your offer, you're wanting to include it there. you're also on your landing page, people aren't just jumping on to get something free anymore. They have to still be converted, which is crazy to me that it's become that way. But there's so many freebies out there that they could jump on that we have to really convince them that, hey, this is one that you should grab and take action. Even on the back end, you need to make sure that you're getting them into that freebie. So there's not so much of like, hey, just grab my freebie. It's grab my freebie. Now I need to continue to convince you to use the freebie to get that desired outcome. And now that you got that little short win, now I need to use these conversion tactics to get into my program and offer. And then any like Facebook ads, content marketing, especially when you're launching. Grant Cardone, he says, if you're not selling, you're being sold to. Like, it's probably not the direct quote, but you got to make sure that you're taking them to that next step of the buyer's journey, and that all requires conversion and sales copy.
And so can you walk us through a time maybe within your business or with a client where you were able to come in, see, oh, we need to really do an overhaul here, kind of work your magic, and what are some of the things that they were doing wrong? What did you change? And then kind of what were the outcomes that occurred from those changes?
Yeah, so I'm working on one right now, so I might as well talk about that one because it's right there in my head. So this is for a summit, and what's interesting is the opt-in page is for a free summit. And back in the day, which is part of those changes that have happened through the years, we could put up a summit page and people are like, oh, that's cool. Lots of different educators teaching me. But more and more people are doing summits that the conversion rate is just not there like it used to be. So part of what I've been working on is one, getting them to have a very solid headline. And that's the first thing that's going to catch someone's eye when they come on. One, it shouldn't be about the offer. So it's easy for us to just want to put the name of the summit right away. But when someone comes on any type of landing page or sales pages, they're thinking, is this for me? Is this what I want? And if the first thing they see is, I'll just make up any so I don't say them, but like heart-centered summit, let's say, that's not going to pull them in to be like, oh, I want this. So you should be thinking like you could even say like the number one summit to help you get XYZ results. And then they're like, ooh, what is this? Tell me more. And they'll want to continue on the page to learn more. So that's the very first thing that you're going to look at for that. And then you're wanting to think, okay, I need to take this person through a journey on this page. I need to actually make them see the value. So instead of just jumping straight into grab your ticket now, here's what's on the ticket, speak to one, what is this? Who is this for? Who are we speaking to right now? And so swapping that out of like, you are wanting to, like some of the language I was talking about with them was wanting to not hustle all like 24/7, bringing that type of language in, wanting to know where your next client is coming from, instead of like not just knowing, obviously the opposite, and just speaking to that person right at the top. Then you can go into the solution. But you've got to speak to them right away. And that's where I see a lot of people try to skip over because they think their audience wants to just go in and buy it or just go and sign up right away. And you still need the buttons at the top for fasties because everyone has a different buyer's journey and what they do. But they're not just rushing to hop on your list right away. So you've got to convince them.
And so you've mentioned a couple like user experience things too with what you help your clients do. Are you also looking at like the user experience of the page itself too, or are you mostly just looking at the text?
I look a little bit at the user experience mostly when they are coming for an audit, when I actually write, I write to kind of give an idea of how to do that, because copy and design go hand in hand. And that's what a lot of people miss. And you've got to make sure that their eyes go to where it needs to go in order to make sure that they read the text. Because if you don't think about that side of things, they're not going to read what needs to be read in order for them to convert.
I know copywriting is 100% an investment, and everyone should think of it that way. But because of that, it's easier to charge a little bit more for that reason. And so it is an investment. You can see the ROI with good copywriting. But let's say someone comes to you and goes, wow, that's way out of my budget. But you know, on the back end, there's just the sky's the limit. What's kind of like your response if someone ever gives pushback towards like the investment that needs to occur for good copywriting?
Yeah, so most of my people already have a good understanding of, okay, I need copy. So majority of my clients already come with that understanding, and they know it has the price tag with it. So I would say one of two things. One, if you know that this is the offer, the business, the ideal client avatar that you're going to be focusing on, and you're wanting to do this for the long run, invest in it. Because if you have good copy, one, it should be lasting for a while. You shouldn't have to change it too often, or there's just small little tweaks. What happens a lot of times if you do your own copy, and I've seen this time and time again, is you end up rewriting the whole thing. Or you think it's your copy that isn't doing the work, so you think you're off. So you think your copy was good, but your offer isn't doing it. So then you go and change your offer. And so you're pretty much throwing just spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure out why something isn't working. So if you know that you've hired an expert that knows how to write copy and you can pull stuff out of you, then you know, okay, I know overall the copy's right. I know that we're really honed in. Let's look at what may not be connecting. So think of it for that long-term investment. The other side is if, hey, like it's just not in your budget right now, happens, fine. Start doing your own and then pay for an audit. Audits that give so much feedback of where you can adjust. And I found them, like I've given audits, and also that audit alone has been able to help them get more clients in. So if you can't have someone completely write it, at least have an expert audit it and give you feedback.
And what should someone expect as an investment? You know, how can they calculate that in terms of like understanding what the effort's going to be on their end, how many assets they have, what's going to need to be the lift? Is there like price ranges you can give our audience so they know, okay, do I have the budget right now to actually invest into this?
It's hard with copywriters. So like I know what my prices are, but you're gonna find it from like 100 people. Some people are selling a sales page for $100, which is a red flag. Just kind of a heads up. We're 15,000 plus for a sales page. So there's such a range in the copy world, which you see with the coaches too, that it's hard to know. But I would, like, if you want to have someone that really knows their stuff, you're looking between like 3 to 5 for a sales page to be written for at least fast start. And then emails typically run around 150 to 250 on average.
And you mentioned the word red flag when it comes to pricing. Are there any other red flags or green flags when one of us is looking to evaluate what copywriter we want to go with? What are some of the things that we can go, okay, I put my trust in this person?
Yeah, you're going to want to see their portfolio. So check out their portfolio and make sure it connects with you. I am really big on when you work with someone, make sure they connect as far as personalities as well. So take time on a call and just get to know that person and talk with that person. The other thing to consider is when you have a conversation with them, are they actually clear on marketing, or are they just writers? Because copywriting actually requires marketing. So when I have conversations with my clients, I will call them out on things. So if I'm like, no, don't do that. Or I have a client that I wrote launch copy for recently, and she's like, how many emails do you think we should do? And I talked through, well, how many days are you planning open cart? Or she actually knew, but if they didn't, we could talk about that. So you need someone that can actually speak that lingo and give you feedback of what makes sense for how many emails you should do. So that they don't try to either undersell you and then you don't get what you need, or oversell you and you could have done a lot less. So that marketing background matters.
Awesome. So if someone did want to get started with you, what's kind of the quick elevator pitch that you give everyone? And then how would you tell them to then reach out to you to get started?
Yeah. So the best, what I typically just tell them is let's hop on a call and see if it's the right fit for you. And then I just have an application on my website for them to go and apply. Let me know a little bit about their project so I can make sure it's the right fit. And then we'll hop on a call and just go over it. I'm really big on this has to be the best investment for your business. And I will turn you away if it's not. Like if you're not solid on your offer, if you're not solid on some of those things, I want you to go do that. Even with the recent audit, I was like, do you have your messaging in place? And they were like, not yet. I'm like, go do that and then I will audit.
Got it. Awesome. This has been great. That's all for today's episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. Big thank you to Vanessa for being today's guest and walking us through the copywriting techniques to better grow and monetize our personal brands. To learn more about how to launch and grow your personal brand, check out, subscribe to Personal Brand Blueprint podcast. Follow me, Dave Polykoff, on LinkedIn, and check out zenpost.com for details of how we can work together. Links to all three and everything that Vanessa talked about today of how you can connect with her will be in the show notes below. Thanks, and see you on the next episode of Personal Brand Blueprint.